what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, ladies, money queens. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. I'm your host, Jessica Weaver. And what a treat for tonight. Somebody who is a huge piece of our team, who's behind the scenes, is now going to be on the show. And she is somebody who actually goes through each and every one of our episodes for compliance. Yes. Ooh, how exciting. How exciting for tonight. Well, I was thinking, we're in our Beyond the Broker season of Women Behind the Millions, and I'm reading a book right now by a recruiter named Mindy Diamond, and it's called Should I Stay or Should I Go? And I thought very fitting, as this season is all about women embracing independence in the financial industry, or it could also relate to women who are ready to leave that corporate job to start something of their own. As I was just on with a client, and she corporate career for many, many years. She's almost 50 years old. She got laid off. It was a huge round of layoffs. And she's like, I'm just kind of enjoying being home. She was working so hard for so many years, leaving the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 7 o'clock at night because she commuted into New York City. And she's been just enjoying kind of a slower pace this year. But she's going back to school for her passion. And that's what I'm thinking of women for this season, right? Ready to embrace kind of that passion project. I see it happening, women like her in their 40s and 50s, like myself in my 30s when I left my father's firm to launch the Wealth Boutique, or even women in retirement leaving and doing something that they've always wanted to do. A hobby, a business, volunteering, things like that. So I'm ready to approach this season with that lens on, just being curious and open to the possibility out there. And as the book by Mindy Diamond was explaining, and I love this analogy of a trapeze, right? Swinging on a trapeze, and you're holding on for dear life because if you let go, you're going to fall. But as you're swinging in the air, there's another one swinging to you. But in order to grab this one, and this is the one that you really want to be in, the one that's swinging towards you, if you're just listening to our podcast version, what do you have to do? You have to let go of the current one. You have to fully let go with both hands to reach and grab where you want to be. And that is the scariest moment for so many people, to let go, because what happens if I don't grab on? What if I don't have a good grip and I'm going to fall? Or just, I don't know where that trapeze bar is really going to go. But the problem is, the longer you hold on to the current trapeze bar, that one that you want to reach is going to get further away from you and swing back away. And it might not even be there when you are ready to finally let go. So at some point, you have to let go of that current trapeze bar to go on to that new leg of your journey. And what does that look like? But with Beyond the Broker, you don't have to make that jump alone. Our goal with this book, that it really is your due diligence process to check all the boxes, go through the legal, the compliance, the financial side of things, building out your own practice, the culture, how do you hire, all of the components, the technology of it, all that goes into your decision, and giving you that infrastructure to land on and having that safety net underneath that trapeze swing. So if you don't get that bar, you're still caught. There's still a net below you, and you can get back up and swing again. And that's our goal for you. And I hope that's a beautiful message for you all who are in that limbo position. You're still kind of holding on to that one trapeze bar, afraid to let go, but your new life is waiting for you for the next one. So you need to make that decision. When are you going to let go? When are you going to reach and jump to that future piece of your life? And it's different for everyone. And we're just here to support you along that swing, along that pathway as well. So who do we have for you today? We have with us Kristen Guerrero. She has been in the financial services industry for over 20 years. The majority of her industry experience is regulatory compliance. In 2020, she launched her own compliance consulting firm, RIA Compliance Key, a boutique regulatory compliance consulting firm assisting SEC registered firms with their own compliance programs. I remember as I was going through my own due diligence process, and we got to bring her on stage to tell this story. Hey, Kristen, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here with us. We were introduced by my coach at the time, Brittany Young. I think she connected with you, Kristen, on LinkedIn. She's very good at connecting people, finding people. And I remember I was working with attorneys at the time, and they just go, "Here's your compliance program." And I look at this, 80-page document, like, uh-huh. And I need to read through it. I know I need to read through it. I'm reading through it. I'm highlighting. I'm like going through it. Wow, this is going to be a lot. This is going to be a lot. And I want to say God knew it was going to be a lot. Well, he knew what my capacity was. And I was connected with Kristen and we hit it off right away. And you stepped into that role for us being our compliance consultant because there's a lot more that goes into it than people realize. Right, Kristen?
Yes, for sure.
Now, what got you into the industry first, and then what drew you to compliance?
So I started in the industry. I was in college actually, and I got an internship at Scottrade, which is no longer around. And I ended up staying on there, and I got licensed. And so I was a stockbroker early on. And then I worked for a couple of financial advisors in operational type roles. And then I ended up at a large national broker dealer and spent about 10 years in their compliance department. And then I was a CCO for an RIA firm, and then I definitely saw the need um, that other firms had, and so I went ahead and launched my own compliance consulting firm. But I think all that experience, it's like looking back, it's like I needed each piece of my work experience to make me who I am today. I think it makes me a more well-rounded compliance person just to have the perspective working with advisors in their office, working behind the scenes at at the larger broker dealer, and then being on the CCO side. So I think it was all important to getting me to where I am today.
Yeah, especially on the operations side, seeing how a practice runs really efficiently, because that's the goal of the compliance, that it's not a hindrance or a roadblock, that they can work together to optimize everything that's being put into work. I could see that, Kristen. Now, for people watching this show, Kristen and her team, they go through each and every one of these episodes. I think that's a big and not a misunderstanding, but an unknown that the content we push out as advisors goes through a compliance process. Whether you have your own firm or you're part of a wirehouse or a broker dealer, right? There's still compliance no matter what. For do websites, social media, all that stuff is banked and reviewed. There's a lot that goes into it that's very different from a lot of other industries
Mhm.
too. We are highly regulated as well. Knowing you, Kristen, and working with you over 2 years now, it seems, my perspective is, being that CCO at that one firm, you created a system, a way to every month have different things that you test and you review, and you found a way to then replicate that on a way that you can now scale and offer it to different firms. Is that a correct observation?
Yeah, yep, that's right. And I think what different like makes me different than like the bigger consulting firms is I tend to be a little bit more hands-on. So I'm not like you said, they're going to hand you a template manual. Well, we might start with the template manual, but we're going to go through it line by line, which can be kind of painful in the beginning, but it's such an important exercise. It gives the CCOs more confidence. It makes them feel better about their compliance program. They know what's in there. They won't be surprised in an exam. And we really do tailor it to their business model as we're doing that too. So although that process can be a little daunting in the beginning, it's a really important exercise. And when I can, I try to complete testing and do as much as I can. There's some things I simply can't do, but just keeping in close contact with my CCO. We meet at a minimum monthly, but it's kind of as needed, just to kind of keep up on those things and then have them help me fill in the gaps. Um, and it just kind of they end up with a robust compliance program.
Yes, and I say it's different from you get the packet, whereas with you, is putting it into practice and having different exercises, activities, ways to monitor it, document it afterward too, that you can show proof to the regulators, whether it's your state regulators or the SEC. If you have over what is 100 million in assets under management, now you're with that. You can work with the SEC as a regulator.
Generally.
Generally, yes.
Generally.
We're gonna be fair. I got compliance on with us today, so I gotta watch what I
Yes.
say.
Yeah, there are some other
Everything's in
scenarios, but yes, in general.
Yeah, there are different scenarios, as Kristen pointed out, for it too. Yes, but having something to put to practice, that gave me a lot more ease. Being the CCO right now, and so I ideally next year will be having a CCO outside of myself for the firm. For it too, but because I'm one of those people, I just can't memorize something. I need to understand how it works and operates. So I remember equations growing up. I couldn't just memorize them, like what is each variable in this equation? I need to see how are we actually using all of these regulations, these rules that we put together, and then doing it with multiple advisors in different states and locations. So it's been so amazing working with Kristen and her team on that regards as well. Um, but I just find it's amazing. You are an entrepreneur at heart, Kristen, because you saw there was this huge need. You created a process that you're like, how could we then bring this process to multiple firms as well? And then you found the technology a dashboard to then use it as well. It's amazing to see, how you've grown and built your business. And 2, did you always know you wanted to have your own business?
Yes, for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I have, and it just took a while for me to kind of figure out what that was.
Without
You know,
like
yeah. So your opening conversation about the trapeze, I was like, yes, 100%. I felt all of that and everything you explained. Um, and for me, what really helped me is having other friends that are women that have started their own businesses. And I just remember one of them telling me, "There's never going to be a great time to do this. You just have to pull the ripcord." And so that was really hitting home for me.
Yes, I was gonna say, was there a moment where you got that final push to, "I'm gonna do it"? Because 'Cause you're right, there is never a perfect time, and I hear that excuse for women, "I'm just gonna wait till next year. I'll wait till things calm down." It doesn't. At some point, you have to I hate to say pull the trigger, right? You have to jump from one trapeze to the next. What was that moment like for you, Kristen?
Well, I made that decision and that move in the middle of the pandemic. I don't know if most people would do that or not.
Wow.
It turned out to work out really well for me. And just like an advisor kind of planning their next steps if they want to make a move, it's just a lot of research and preparing and networking and just doing as much as you can. And then, like you said, you kind of just have to make that jump and just, see if it works. And I have a good friend that she tells me a lot of times, because I'm a compliance person, so I tend to worry, and I always go through what's the worst outcome, worst case scenario, and she always challenges me to ask myself, what is the best case scenario? And so that was I'm like, okay. So you kind of have to stop and think about that, especially someone like me who that is what I do all the time is, it's this risk and think about risk and what is the worst case. And she's like, what is the best case scenario? And so that's something to think through too, trying to make that decision.
Yes, I love that. What's the best that could happen?
Mhm.
You're right. That's your zone of excellence, your zone of genius is to figure out what are we talk about this on our compliance, like, what are the risks to the firm? What are the liabilities? What do we need to protect? That's what compliance is, right? Rules and regulations and protection, for us and for our clients above and beyond. What's the best case scenario that could happen as you're making that leap? I also love because you can really relate to people like myself leaving my father's firm. I was just on a call with a recruiter who's looking for a firm for her advisor. Um, she was part of a boutique firm that got bought out. And now she's part of this huge firm, getting paid nothing. And yeah, she has a strong book of business. And Kristen, I tell you, she's getting paid 0.15% on her book of business. That is almost 200 million of assets under management. My jaw dropped. That is not a lot if you're not in our industry at all. And she feels like I have no say in what's going on. But Kristen, I signed a non-solicit. So in the very scary moment of I have no control over what just happened to me, now I'm trying to figure it out what's my best next direction. You can relate to women like that, leaving that what's known, the
Mhm.
corporate job, a sense of security with your paycheck or just knowing what you know, to then leaving makes you very relatable to hit
Yes.
on those moments. Now, let's say we're talking about this advisor. What are some things she needs to think about gearing up for should I stay or should I go to Minnie Diamond's book title?
Yeah, yeah. So, the first question I always ask advisors if they reach out and they're thinking of leaving, starting an RA, whatever the case may be, making some sort of move or transition is why. Why are you wanting to move? Because it could be that the reason they want to move, maybe it is going to solve their concerns, or maybe it's not. And so we kind of just want to think through that too. Um, and that's the biggest thing. And then really the first thing is that they need to do is review if they've signed any non-competes or anything like that. They need to review their agreements that they signed with their current firm. And as you know, I am not an attorney. You need to have an attorney look those over, and make sure that you know you're free to do what it is you want to do, or that you're doing it within in the terms of your agreements. If you mess that up, the whole rest of it's going to be really messy. So that is a crucial step, is to make sure you understand the terms of you leaving your current firm, and you can do that confidentially. Like talking to an attorney. The other thing I would recommend with that is get an attorney in the industry, or somebody with industry experience. Our industry is really different than others, and having someone that understands how advisors get paid, understand you know the scope of what they're looking at, it's really important, and it makes a really big difference. And that would be something else I would really recommend,
Yeah.
getting a good attorney.
So, for one step, track down that original agreement that you signed when you joined that firm. I hear this, I didn't sign anything. We all do. Find it, ask HR, and like, how can I do this without any raising any red flags? And just say, I don't know where it is. I lost it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not uncommon for advisors. If you've been there for a long time, you don't remember signing that or don't know where that agreement is, just say, "Hey, I'm just looking at my own business records. I'd like to request a copy of this for my records." Something like that. You can make the request generic.
Yeah, make it vague. Yeah, I just want to look at it. I can't find it. And it's right, right? It could be a virtual copy. You could have a concrete, an actual physical copy, depending on when you sign, and it could be 30 years ago. So find the agreement, review it with an attorney who is industry specific, not your brother's a real estate attorney or an estate attorney, and they're going to go through it. What's that language look like? Are there non solicits? Are there non competes? And then you've got to work through what you can do, what you can't do in regards to what clients or relationships can you bring over or not for it too. Very, very good. And you said this can be confidential because it part of the due diligence process, and I think this is very difficult for advisors. You can't really talk to a lot of people about this decision, but the attorney is somebody who's working for you to help you navigate that piece of it as well. All right, so let's moving the person along the way. They have decision, they figured out their why, and yes, they do want to move, right? And in your chapter and Beyond the Broker, Kristen's one of our contributing authors, and Beyond the Broker, our newest book, Epping Fix Productions, coming out. We have it, what, first quarter of 2025? It's crazy. Or to now they know they want to go independent, but they aren't sure if they should join a firm or start their own. What are some things for them to kind of do their own assessment on which direction they should go, Kristen?
Yeah. I actually think, and not because I am compliance, I think compliance is one of the bigger factors. I really do. If you don't want to do compliance yourself, or you don't want to pay to have someone help or hire an in-house CCO or something like that, you may be better off getting that support from an existing firm that already has that structure in place. And that's really kind of a personal choice for each advisor. How they wanna tackle compliance, but I actually think that's one of the biggest, differences, and something that people need to understand, if especially if they're leaving somewhere that where they already have that support, realize it's going to be on your shoulders in certain circumstances. If you start your own RIA, if you join an RIA, you may not have as much compliance, or you always have compliance responsibilities, right? But you'll have someone guiding you along, and, it won't be up to you to remember every single thing. You'll have someone helping you.
Yes, and you make a great point in your chapter too. Whether you're joining a currently established firm, you still need to understand their compliance
Yes.
protocols, systems, technology as well, and that they're doing everything that they should be doing. So just having that education, I think every advisor should have an education on compliance and awareness, understanding of how it works and what's their responsibility to remain compliant versus the compliance departments as well. And I think a big thing that's happened, especially with the larger companies, broker dealers, wirehouses, like compliance is not my friend. It's you. Chris and I, we're very good friends. That doesn't have to be the case. You should be, I don't know, feel comfortable working with the compliance department at your current firm, new firm, or the firm that you're forming. You should have that comfort that you can work together, that they're not trying to work against you. But here's my idea. Let's find a compliant way to execute that idea.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah, and we try to be business friendly. Um, a lot of times we're the consultants. We're not gonna tell you, "No, you can't do something." What we're gonna do is outline the risk to your firm
Mhm.
and to yourself, and then you're gonna make a decision if you wanna do that or not. And I think that's something to understand. If you start your own RIA and you are the CCO and you own it, there will be nobody there to tell you, "No, you can't do things." That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea, and it might be more risk than it is worth. But you will be, solely in charge of your compliance.
Yes, that's a great point, Kristen. I look at, should I join a firm or do I want to launch my own? And it's, do you want to be an advisor or do you want to wear that entrepreneurial hat, be the CCO and build something from scratch? And they're two very different mindsets and approaches to the business as well. And from my own experience being an advisor within a practice, I had a lot more time to put into clients and prospecting and building out the book of business versus now having our own RIA in the space, right? For 2 years, I didn't really grow my book because I was building out the compliance with Kristen, building out the infrastructure, getting everybody settled, the new technology, and then doing the due diligence for anything that we incorporate, whether it's on the technology side or the investment side, doing that on a regular basis as well. And then learning all of it until I felt settled enough, which probably happened this year, to now being able to grow, and bring in new clients and relationships as well. So I would just take that into consideration. Where do you want your focus and your time, energy to be? There's no right or wrong. It's just very different approaches to how you want to grow within this industry
Mhm.
as well for it too. Awesome, Kristen. Let's see. Where else on the compliance side too should people be thinking about when they're making a switch?
What else on the compliance side?
Yes. What are things that people overlook when it comes
Um,
to making a transition?
yeah, so, what I would do, and remember, when you're looking to make a transition, let's say you're joining another firm, you need to do your due diligence on that firm as well. Understand their compliance department. Do they have a culture of compliance themselves? Like, look them up. There's information that's public out there that you can look up. You don't want to join a firm that's got a bunch of disciplinary history themselves. You don't want to take on someone else's, risk and have reputational risk and things like that. So you're doing your due diligence just as much as they're doing their due diligence on you. Make sure you can use the programs, the systems. If there's something you want to use, you like to use, make sure you can use it over there. Make sure you can offer the same services somewhere else. I mean, all that stuff's really important to understand, just as you think about moving somewhere else. Or if you're going to start your own firm, you can set that up, but understanding, making sure you can do what it is you need to do if you join another.
Yes. How long would you say, Kristen, the due diligence process takes when people are making a decision on which firm to join or my own firm? Do you see
Yeah,
kind of an average, a year, 2 years?
I think it depends on the reason they're leaving. If they're trying to leave in a hurry, it tends to be shorter, but hopefully you have lots of time to think about it and you're not, and there's so many different reasons advisors switch firms. And I will say, no matter what your reason is or your decision is, always put your clients first. Make sure that if you make a move, that it is in their best interest. That's something very important to consider as you're, going doing your due diligence on your next steps.
Yes. An example of that is one firm. This is when I sold my father's firm that was recruiting us would not take one of the fund families that we invested in. And there we had our clients had a lot of capital gains in those funds. So we could not justify a move if it meant a huge tax piece for our clients. So looking at what investments can come over or not, does that leave tax issues for our clients that we're not passing on to them? For two as one example. So really, it should be in the client's best interest, and then looking at the future where you want your firm to go, who's going to best support that? Is because are they compliant friendly? I do compliance as an investment into the firm, that and probably IT and technology and the safety around our technology. Two huge, huge pieces that we need to. And it's not a cost; that is an investment because without them, we would not be here. It would just be a lot of issues. We'll say for it too. Um, this has been fantastic, Kristen. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be right back with Kristen Guerrero as we talk about compliance. You're making compliance fun today, Kristen.
Thank you. I think
We'll see you in a bit. At the Wealth Boutique, we know there's a different kind of wealth. It's not just about the dollars in your account, but that sense of freedom, confidence, and security that comes with it. We know that money isn't just about the math. It's so deeply intertwined with your emotions, values, aspirations. And it's your time. For too damn long, society has whispered in your ear, planting seeds of shame, guilt, greed, embarrassment around money. But here we say and do something different. We give you permission to be who you are meant to be, to spend where it feels good, and to invest where your heart is. Our female-focused team of advisors understands the unique financial journeys of women, couples, and their families. We're not here to just talk numbers. We're here to help you craft your own financial triumph story, one that reflects your goals and values. We open up our arms at the Wealth Boutique to guide you, be your confidant, your advocate, your ally, whether it's your retirement, financial plan, or estate plan. Let's craft your unique story and get started. All right. Oh. A little feature. That's strange. Hold on one second. Let's see. Any better?
I didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't hear it? Oh, it's just my. All right, let's hope it doesn't bother me. All right, we are back with Kristen Guerrero as we talk about compliance in our newest book, Beyond the Broker. Your chapter, Kristen, one was a very fun read, especially despite it being about compliance. So there's a big myth that compliance is boring. Uh, you great layout and checklist for advisors to really take time, do the reflective questions, think them through. Whether you're joining an independent firm, you're starting your own RIA. Let's talk about launching your own RIA for a few minutes before we go into the next part of our show. as well. Where do you even start? I have this idea. I want to launch the wealth boutique. What do I need to do next?
Research and lots of research. I think if you have someone that you can talk to that's been through the process, that, again, I highly suggest these being confidential conversations, that you keep your circle of who's in the know very, very small in the beginning if you're leaving an existing firm. Even if things are good, it's just, I've seen things where it goes sideways and you just kind of want to keep that quiet as long as you can. But again, the first thing you do is review your contracts. Talk to other people that have gone through something similar. Reach out to different consulting firms. Um, I suppose you could start an RA on your own. I don't know if I would recommend it or not. A consultant's going to walk you through the process. And there's so many different consulting firms. And that's something I learned as I was starting my own business. It's hard to compare them. They're all very different. Understand what you're getting, what they'll do for you. Are they going to, nickel and dime you every time you call me? I'm going to charge you for a call. Or are they a little bit more flexible with their time? My approach is I want people to call me. I can't help you with things I don't know, so I want to keep those lines of communication open. Um, so interviewing your compliance consultants and picking a firm to help you would be a good idea. And then from there, they'll kind of walk you through the steps with registration and getting your documents and the required documents and policies and procedures and things like that set up. And the process, it just depends, how long it takes. If it's an SEC registration, couple months from start to finish. And that's assuming nothing comes up or they don't have a lot of questions or something like that. That one's a little bit more predictable. It's the state registrations that are more unpredictable. Um, they could take. I've had some that were approved instantly. They didn't ask me a single question, and we've had some that have taken up to 9 months or longer. And so those are the ones that just get a little bit trickier because you don't know what your time is.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So build in that time frame. I was just talking with the recruiter. It always takes longer than you initially think and probably more money than you initially think as well. So making sure you are in a good financial situation to make that switch. No matter what transition, there's going to be a period of time when you don't have the income coming in that you're used to until all of your clients are over and the first billing cycle happens with them as well. So plan for that buffer period when you're making that transition too. Um, and as you said, doing the research, I think that's a big piece when you're launching your own RA. There are so many options out there. Tech, I remember going to a conference and there's that, you probably know what I'm talking about, that technology piece with all the icons, the logos,
Yes.
and that has quadrupled in size year over year. And the technology that we didn't have available 2 years ago, we now have, or we're able to use them for it too. So to me, it's like an ongoing thing that you need to do to make sure you do have the best technology and support for your clients as well. But that was very overwhelming for myself. And then probably why I really bonded with you, Kristen. Everybody I spoke with was old white dudes. It's a lot, and I'm like, I don't want their perspective of how I should grow. It was very different than my vision as well, so that's what I would say too, like, understanding to stay true to what you want to build, take in their information, don't get defensive or anything, take it in, but staying true to who you are, what you wanna build, and trust your intuition as well with it. And except there was another woman, Kristen, Jen from Money Guide Pro, our planning software that we use. And we get on the phone. She goes, I have to tell you my pink story because she did a little background check. She saw the websites and the pink everywhere. And she was explaining that she was married, wasn't the best relationship. They had just bought a house together and he wanted her to go get paint. They were going to start painting some rooms. And he picked out this green color that she really didn't like. So she goes to Home Depot or Lowe's, and she's trying to find the green that he wants, and in the corner of her eye, she sees the bright pink swatch of paint,
Yes.
and she goes over to it, she picks it up, and she brought it home, told him, I want a divorce. She's like, I had lost my pink. And it took that moment to realize how much I had sacrificed and given up for this man. And what was I getting in return? This ugly green on the walls that she didn't even like in a house that she didn't want to buy with a man that she doesn't love anymore. And like, one, what an empowering story, and that she felt vulnerable to share it with me on our first call, uh, as well. But that I that's what I love about our community is that women can be very vulnerable with each other and share those moments and help each other during those times when you're going from one trapeze bar to the next. She was able to do that after just seeing us watch a Pink, right? What we can accomplish together is amazing. Amazing. So, sorry, little tangent, but wanted to share the Pink story. But it was refreshing to start seeing other women in the industry, and that's what really compelled Cameo and myself to have this book, Beyond the Broker. It doesn't have to be just for female financial advisors, but that there are females in this industry standing up for each other and being there as huge pillars of support and encouragement and inspiration for all you ladies watching as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Jessica, I have to tell you, I attended a compliance conference a couple weeks ago, which was really good, by the way. Even though it was compliance, it was really good.
I love that you geek out on compliance, Kristen, because
I do. I do. No, there were 80, probably 80 to 100 people in the room, and there were 10 women. I counted. There were 10 of us. Yeah.
look at that. I was at an event last night, and I was the only woman in the room, and it was at a restaurant, and Tony Soprano just happens to be on this huge picture of James Gandolfini, but, as Tony Soprano, staring at me, and I posted online, like, "Of course, I'm the only woman in the room, and Tony Soprano's staring directly at me." For too, but yes, and that's a huge reason why the book proceeds of Beyond the Broker, Financial Trendsetters, our next round's Financial Trendsetters 2.0, all of those are going to fund a financial scholarship for young women who's studying finance or economics, as we want to bring more women into the industry as well for it too. So thank you, Kristen, so much for being a huge supporter of us, our community, and the movement, and being part of Beyond the Broker as well. Right too. All right, we're going to take one more commercial break before we get into my favorite series of questions for our guests, our Beyond the Broker tips, trends, and final thoughts. So stay with us, ladies. At Pinkfix Production, your story matters, your voice matters, you matter. It is a privilege to hear your story because of the truth behind it. But it also takes a courageous woman to be bold enough to tell their story, knowing some will judge you, but most, yes, most, will applaud you. We want you to step into being a thought leader and making change in this world, because let's face it, lady, you won't feel satisfied until you make your mark on the world. We accomplish this through several forms of media, podcasts, book publishing, magazines, TV shows, and events. We take you through our 5-step proven process to becoming a thought leader, from getting clarity over your mission, building confidence to use your voice, leveraging the media to declare your mission, aligning with strategic partners, and how to launch your legacy. Yes, we build a platform with you so you can ignite your revolution. All right, we're igniting a compliance revolution tonight. All right, ladies. So Kristen's going to give us, what is your Beyond the Broker tip for the women watching tonight?
Yeah. So if you're thinking of leaving your firm or starting your own firm or making some sort of change, again, it's just doing that research, reaching out to people, understanding your options. That's one of my favorite things to do, honestly, is talk to people that are thinking about making a change, and just to see if I can help. And a lot of times I'll try to send them down the right direction, or give them some things to think about or things to research, and consider. Yeah, 'cause sometimes people just don't have any idea of where to start. They don't even know where to start, and so I try to give them a list of considerations to start with.
Yes, it's like what we try to do for our clients, right? It can be very overwhelming when you look at everything all at once, and the decision fatigue, having to make so many decisions and feeling that weight It's not just you, it's your family, it's your clients, it's future advisors joining you. It just gets piled on. The regulators, what are those steps? Knowing that I am doing all of this stuff, so I'm not missing anything. And there should be a transition support group. You mentioned it earlier, Chris, and surrounding yourself with people who have gone through it or are going through it as well. It can be huge, huge. And it's so generous of you to wanna speak with everybody to there's things that they don't even know to ask, they haven't thought of, um, and yet it creeps into your mind, I'm missing something," so just that reassurance.
Yeah, and like you touched on earlier, there's so many other things, not just compliance, but there's, I really, really recommend companies engaging in IT vendors, cybersecurity, those sorts of things. I can recommend it. We could put it in your policies, but those are the sorts of things I can't actually get done. But understanding where to spend the resources you have up front, what's really important, and it's things like that, like your IT company and cybersecurity is huge. Making sure you're doing stuff around that as well.
And you're putting the money where it needs to be the priorities, like cybersecurity and compliance. Yeah, the beautiful website and that's important. I'm not saying it's not, but that shouldn't be 80% of your budget. So
Yeah,
one of activity that was very helpful for me, and I did this with a few of the different custodians that we were working with, like Schwab, going through what are your current expenses, and then they helped me figure out what your new expenses are going to be when you own your own RIA. It's very different, and it I was laughing at how much money they said it was gonna cost, and yet they were right on the money with it because they do it day in, day out. They do it all the time. So, but what does that budget look like? We do this for our clients. We gotta do it for ourselves as well. Um, what does that look like for IT, E&O insurance, cybersecurity insurance, right? Hacking, compliance consultants, your technology, marketing, office space, right? There's a lot that goes into what that budget looks like as well for it. And I said earlier, getting yourself financially to a place where you can make that investment. Now, REAs tend to be valued much higher depending on where you go on the scale from a wirehouse to an independent, or let's say wirehouse captive, independent, and then REA. So hopefully, you'll get that back, on the back end. It's not expensive, it's an investment into the growth of your business and the valuation of it as well. Alright, Chris, and what would be your beyond the broker trend? Are you noticing anything happening when it comes to women in the industry?
Um, well, like I said, just sitting in on that conference a couple weeks ago, I still think there's not a lot of us. I think just, continuing to encourage others. Um, Other trends I'm seeing in the industry, I would just say, um, I feel like the regulators are ramping up. I feel like exams are bigger than they've ever been. Um, just kind of across the board, even from a couple of years ago. So just kind of preparing that way as well. Just, compliances. Um, it just seems to be growing. New rules, new regulations. Like I said, the exams are getting bigger, and just to be prepared for those as well.
Yes. Yes, and while we're filming this, we're going through our routine SEC audit, and for it was very overwhelming, and then I started to switch my mindset around it and thinking, no matter what comes out of this audit, it's gonna make a stronger firm. As well, right? As you're pointing out things. But what I found interesting is, as your attention goes towards these different compliant pieces, it's amazing what resources you have in your world, but because they weren't on your radar before, you were just missing them. So last night I went to an event and one of our partners, they're able to look at all of our holdings and it's a 9 different indicators from underperformers, it's to internal costs, if the manager has turnover, and it's going through 9 different indicators and they are going to rate all the positions in your book of business. And you can set that up, Kristen, on a quarterly basis as well, and it's helped firms on average go from 3 to 400 different positions, and sometimes there's just, like, old stragglers that came in and you didn't do anything with, to 90. right? So that's a huge difference in just being able to do even better due diligence on those 90 than trying to figure out over hundreds of
Yeah.
investments and monitoring them too. So I just thought that was interesting. Now that it's more and more on my radar, I'm finding these opportunities are just going through emails and events. Who knew there was compliance conferences? Of course there are. But yeah, it's like it's once somebody puts it in front of you, don't you'll be amazed at the opportunities and the resources and the technology that can support it and back it. So don't be overwhelmed by it. Trust there's something there that's going to be able to help you navigate it.
Yes. Yep. And definitely engage your vendors, engage your custodians, take full advantage of your resources that you probably already are paying for.
That's a great tip. We gotta add that into the Beyond the Broker. Yeah. Reach out to them and do other advisors have this question? What are they doing, right? Find out, engage with them, ask them the question, what resources? Because a lot of times, like there's too many and you don't even know about a third of them, a quarter, a tenth of them. Like last night. So engage, go to events. I would say go to events and talk to people. And don't
Yes.
talk about you, go with a curious mindset to learn more about them and their best practices, um, for it too. This has been amazing, Kristen. Let's get your picture up here. Where can everybody here she is in blue. Well, you have great colors. Where can everybody find you, Kristen?
Yeah, so my website, which is just www.riacompliancekey.com. I'm also on LinkedIn or email, just Kristen, Kristen at riacompliancekey.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. We do have one more question for you.
What makes you a woman behind the millions?
All right, this is always my favorite part when I'm reviewing these for compliance purposes.
You have a lot of examples to think.
Yeah. I think for me, it's supporting other women and not just saying I support other women, like doing it, like, taking some action steps to do that and help the next generation. And also just women business owners in general. I think that women face a unique set of circumstances when they go out on their own, unique challenges when we start a business, and just supporting each other. I have several friends that are women business owners. Um, could not have done this without them, just their support and their encouragement. And when I say support and don't just, oh, yes, I support women, do it like have, for example, I had gone back to the high school where I went to high school and launched a scholarship for a girl going into financial services. It was a big part. I had a great teacher in high school. She had real world business experience, and that's kind of what always just kind of ignited my passion. I always knew I wanted to go into business. Didn't want to know what. Definitely didn't think it was going to be compliance. Of course, that wasn't even on my radar. But just kind of going back and giving back when you can and taking action steps to support other women.
Yes, right. We're all given a hand and let's extend the other hand back for that next generation. That's amazing. I did not know about your scholarship program. That is incredible. Thank you so much for doing that, and being that huge pillar for it too. So that, yeah, I would say that makes you one behind the millions. It's that mentorship and then giving the back, going above and beyond as well. I recently saw Cara Lawson speak, who's the Duke women's basketball coach, and I asked her, "Why do I want to say the statistics is like 40 or 60% of girls stop playing sports by the time they're in 4th grade." And her take on it was that there needs to be more women coaches, even from a young age as well, for it too. And I think it's the same thing in business, right? More of us need to step up, and mentor, and that younger generation ask us, ask to get on my I will never say no to having a conversation with a woman in finance or business. I will always jump on the call, with somebody, and there's one, she's a daughter of a financial advisor, so we have a lot in common. She's like, "Well, how can I get back to you?" I'm like, "Somebody did this to me, I'm doing this for you, and then you're gonna do it for somebody else." And that's how we keep it going. So that's amazing, Chris, and thank you so much for being such a huge supporter in that regards. And as you said, finding your tribe, that core group of women who support you too, and you support them back. Uh,
Yes.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Kristen, so much for being on Women Behind the Millions. Thank you for being a part of our newest book at Pink Fix Productions, Beyond the Broker. Cannot wait for this book to come out and being that Bible due diligence book, even for women who are joining us. Now we have something tangible we can give them. They can go through, they can come back to it, they can lean on it as their business evolves and changes as well through the years. We're going to say goodbye to Kristen. Stay with us as we do the after show of Women Behind the Millions. I'll see you in a bit.
Thanks, Jessica.
Wasn't that fun having Kristen on our show, Women Behind the Millions? I love this season because you get a behind the scenes look at our industry and everything that goes into having a financial firm as well for it too. I was just explaining it to clients during our review with them. I said, we're going through this process where we're auditing all of our investment holdings to make out of 9 key indicators how they're performing. And they're like, well, wow, we had no idea. Thank you. That's amazing. So we do this on a regular basis as well for it too. So there's a lot behind the scenes that our clients do not see that we're doing on a regular basis. And to give you an idea, yesterday I went to 2 different events. So one was about 5 hours, one was 3 hours. And I met with 4 different investment managers the first time, 3 the second time, learning about the elections and what happens there with the markets. And I'll give you some insights here in a bit as well. What investments work well in a high inflation type of environment. We go through what's on the horizon with the Fed and interest rates. So we get a look on the economy from the analysts, the stock market, inflation, government, and then getting into the actual investments in the portfolios and how they run, how they operate, who are they good for, and fits. So I'm constantly doing these due diligence meetings. I fly out tomorrow to meet with an insurance partner of ours to do due diligence there. A 2-day, 24-hour, very in-depth meeting. Spending the night, then I fly back, get home for trunk or treat with my kids the next day as well. But just to give you insights into my world, being the CEO of the Wealth Boutique and also the CCO, which we will be changing next year, bringing on a CCO, Chief Compliance Officer, for those of you who aren't in our world, for it too. We do the same thing with technology. So we just started doing a new technology because legally we can't text clients. We need a technology that we can bank and review the text to clients. So we brought one on. We're doing a soft launch where myself and Sarah have access to it. Then we'll bring it to all of the advisors as well for it too. So we do a lot of those where we find the right vendor. We got to research the vendors, find the right one. How do they work with our compliance with Kristen? And then we're going to soft launch it, work out the kinks, and then we'll bring it to all of our advisors at the Wealth Boutique and on and on. We're going to do something similar with our services. So we brought on our estate planning. In a year, we're going to be adding in a tax service as well, bringing on an in-house accountant. So going through that process, hiring, finding the right one, building out that service with the industry. How do we bring it to our clients? How do we use it for prospects? Engagement as well for it too. So when you look at services, technology, things like compliance, we have a very thorough vetting process for it. And that probably was my biggest surprise coming and launching the Wealth Boutique was that attention and level to detail that we need to do and that I need to be aware of at all times for it too. So makes me stronger. Looking back, the opportunities and experiences that I've had over the last 2.5 years launching the Wealth Boutique would have blown my mind talking to 25-year-old Jess 10 years ago, speaking on multiple stages across the United States, launching this TV show, our books. We have published 3 books in 2024. We probably will be doing over 10 books in 2025, which is crazy. Another TV show, Care Conversations. Eventually, we'll have our own network. Our retreat, our gala, raising a financial scholarship. That's always been a pipeline dream of mine. So I feel very, very blessed to be in this space and launching Pink Fix Productions, our sister company, with the show, our books, our retreats, our events, podcasts, everything, and to give a stage for women everywhere to have a voice. That is our goal. So thank you for staying on for the after show recap. I loved having Kristen on today, giving you an insider look at our side of compliance and legal side of our industry. We'll see you next week on another episode of Women Behind the Millions. And remember to be bold, bright, beautiful, and as big, as loud as you can, ladies, in this world. And with that, I will see you next week. Thanks for watching. And thank you so much for sharing the show, getting it out there. We are growing each and every month, and it's because of you. Good night, Money Queens. Hey, Money Queens, looking to get your wealth to that next level, 7, 8, 9 figures? Follow us on Instagram at PinkFixMyMoney and at Women's Wealth Boutique for more millionaire money tips.